How's it going, friends? Welcome back. I know it's been a few weeks here, but we're going to get back into the swing of it. I'm going to pick a tune for you, and then we'll get to the business. Meditation, mindfulness, all of it. Good to see you folks out there in the chat. Elliot, Johnny, thanks for joining us, y'all. Gonna play you a tune that kind of comes from the Western swing realm. A little bit of the Panhandle Rag for you. Nice. Got a few more folks joining us out there since I've playing some notes. Loco Joe. Good to see you out there, buddy. And the man himself, Lewis Eads. Good evening from Evansville, Indiana. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm doing great, buddy. Good to see you out there. Oh, nice. Loco Joe's giving me some EQ or volume tips, rather. I like that, man. Is the vocal volume cool, Joe? Just give me a shout in the chat box there. If not, that means I probably just need to turn the backing track down. And Loco Joe is definitely correct on the app of choice for the backing tracks. Definitely Strum Machine. Strum Machine is kind of my app of choice for that stuff these days. Luke is kind of killing it over there. They've got a beta release of Strum Machine out right now that actually has like Western swing and gypsy jazz rhythms and stuff like that. And I have to say, it is choice. The app that I was using for a lot of jazz stuff before Strum Machine came into my life is iReal Pro, and I still like iReal Pro because it's like straight jazz combo kind of backing tracks. So like a drum kit, piano, upright bass kind of sounds. But if you're looking for like country jazz kind of sounds, or like I said, the jazz manouche, gypsy jazz kind of thing, Luke has definitely dialed that in over at Strum Machine, and I can't wait to see where that goes over the next few years. So, yeah, Give him your money. It's only $50 a year to have it. I think that's pretty awesome. Nice. Oh, Mr. Jacob Hawkins is out there. Just want everyone to know that that yellow case in the corner, I am holding Jacob's mandolin hostage. That means I have 2 red diamonds in my possession right now, and my other one is down at Don's shop. So technically, I have 3 red diamond mandolins right now. Lewis is asking a question out here. Would you suggest iReal Pro for bluegrass tracks? Absolutely not. So they have iReal Pro has bluegrass sounds in their kind of like, they have a bluegrass band. You know what? Just for some yucks before we get started here tonight, I'm gonna play a bluegrass song on iReal Pro for you guys, and then you you tell me if you think it's worth it. Well, let's see. All right, here's Beaumont Rag in iReal Pro with the bluegrass backing track setting. Let's check this out. For some reason, this like makes me infinitely happy. Yeah. Oh my gosh, and Loco Joe, he's got a comment out there. That's awesome, Joe. Thanks for sharing that info. Yeah, man. Really cool. Yeah, I was hoping somebody would say that. Joe says, iReal Pro sounds like a cartoon parody. Absolutely. The first time I heard it, I was like, you know, like how people used to have like MIDI tracks on their websites back in like the late 90s that would play because it was like, oh my god, we can put music on our websites now. It's crazy. Like, it reminds me of like a late 90s website with a MIDI bluegrass track on it, you know? Beautiful stuff. Oh, man. Oh, and Marion's out there. Good to see you, Marion. Okay, gang, I know, I'm like going off the rails solidly here. We're already just talking about all sort of crazy stuff, making fun of iReal Pro bluegrass tracks. If any of the developers to iReal Pro are watching this later, I just want to say what you do for your jazz tracks is amazing, guys, but maybe just remove the bluegrass settings. Well, gang, so I think before I go down the rabbit hole of talking more about my favorite backing track apps, let's go ahead and get some meditation out of the way. I don't know about you guys, but I could totally use it this week. We had our hour-long sitting meditation yesterday, and my mind was all over the place. And I realized that like the week before, it was a pretty stressful week with just like work and stuff. And I looked back on it, I was like, oh my god, I didn't meditate once that entire week, which is crazy because usually I do it every day. But I got out of my practice routine, and that's usually when I do it. So kind of hopping back on the horse for me this week. So yeah, it's gonna be good to do some meditation. I think we don't have any newbies here with us. Oh, Francois out there again. Good to see you, Francois. You snuck past. Yeah, so we're just going to do our sitting mindfulness meditation. Everybody find a nice relaxed position. Maybe roll your neck around, roll your shoulders around. I like to do that. Stretch out a little bit, get loose. Oh. Take a few deep breaths in. All right, I'm going to set the timer for just over 5 minutes. And challenge, as always, count your breaths. I've been doing what my meditation coach kind of suggested to me, counting cycles of 21 breaths and not really trying to keep track of the number of breaths, but just having a regular cyclical count to keep you mindful and in the moment. So maybe try that today. See if you can count to 21 breaths and then Restart the timer over. How many of those can you get in? All right, gang, here we go. 5 minutes. See you on the other side. Well, I'm just realizing that well, it looks okay on the stream. Sorry. I got distracted. When I came out of meditation, I realized that the screen had been frozen nearly the entire time on me looking like... That's funny. Well, it looks like we've got good stream health now. But let's talk about your meditation health. How did everyone feel about that? On a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself. And like I've said the last couple times, it doesn't have to so much be a judgmental thing. Like, if you felt like you overcame something and you were able to maintain your focus on the breath, even though your mind is really active, and you feel good about that, give yourself a 10, you know. Johnny's at a 7. Good, my man. Marion's at a 7. Nice. Francois a 6. Joe says, hard to put a number on this one. For some reason, Red Wing kept playing in my head on loop, but it didn't really pull me from my anchor, so 7 out of 10. Man, I feel that so much, dude. This is ridiculous. My wife and I did our hour-long sitting meditation yesterday, and the night before we had watched part of the movie Waiting for Guffman. If you guys don't watch the like Eugene Levy movies, I'm like a huge fan of this, but one of the idiotic songs from that movie just kept playing in my head on like repeat the entire time for the meditation, and unfortunately I wouldn't give myself a 7 for that meditation. Elliot's had a 6. Oh, nice. And Elliot said I wasn't frozen on his end. Okay, great. Yeah, that's good to know. Ooh, Jacob's at a 9. Impressive. Becky's at a 9. Yeah. She said it was just there. Nice. Oh, nice. And Francois meditated with his mandolin. That's great. I really like that, Francois. I didn't have my guitar on today, but I love doing that. Just to kind of see how it feels, and, you know, the tactile sensation of holding your instrument. That's great, man. And what did you give yourself? A 6? That's awesome. If that's your first time doing it with the instrument, a 6 is great. Nice. And so Marion says in the chat here too that she started learning orchestra music. She's playing with a mandolin orchestra now, which is like ridiculously awesome, and I'm super jealous of that. But meditation has been helping. That is exactly what I want to hear, Marion. I can't tell you how much it's helped my, you know, just like musical practice. Because we've talked about this in so many ways before, but practicing meditation is just practicing focus. You're flexing the muscle of focus in your mind and all that. So that's great. I'm really glad to hear that, Marion. Congratulations to you. Give yourself a pat on the back. Nice. And Johnny's got a cool one here too. Says, I tried something new too, Francois. I meditated with my instrument, but meditated on the intervals in the C major scale with my fingers while I tried to keep breathing. I love that one, man. Because we've talked about that on the stream before too, like finding a simple, repetitive musical exercise that can kind of keep you in the moment. I would be interested to see exactly how you did that, Johnny, but I could almost see like a pattern, you know, like what a... and then go beyond the octave. Why not? Yeah, that's nice, man. I'm gonna have to try that one. I'm not sure that's exactly how you did it, but that was my first kind of inclination. Yeah, that's great. Oh, I love it. This is awesome. People are tossing out all sort of suggestions in the chat box. Great stuff, folks. You know what? I've said this before, but I love this community. I'm so glad that we can gather and talk about this stuff. I know we're a small but mighty crew, but I'm into it, man. Great. Well, I think everybody. I'm looking back at those numbers: 7.66959. That's awesome, people. Like I said, if you're anywhere above a 5, that means you're like, I think you're actively like making progress and flexing the muscle, of meditation. Honestly, if you show up and try it, you're making progress, because that's the first step. But if you feel good about it, I guess is what I'm getting at. Then that's it means that much more. Um, I really love it, and this is kind of related to what I was talking about a second ago. How you know meditation makes you better at practicing music, because meditation is simply just practicing simple focus. We're taking one thing and we're flexing our mind's muscle of focus, right? To kind of steer the focus toward just one object. And I think if you can maintain a positive positive mindset about it the entire time, you're that much more likely to make progress. It goes back to some of the things we've talked about before, right? Like can't, never, could, and the Ethan Kross book, Chatter. Negative self-talk is always bad. So if you can even boost yourself, if you can find one positive thing to latch onto in the meditation practice, then I think you're doing it right. You're doing it that much better. And that kind of brings me to some of what I wanted to talk about today. I love being able to teach and share some of the stuff that I've been able to learn with music over the years with people. And teaching is just as much an educational experience for me as it is, I think, the person sitting across the room from me. And I had a really interesting interaction with a student last week that was like, we were going over a very standard bit of repertoire for their instrument, and there's like pretty much one way to play the intro to it, right? There's like a solid one, everybody who's played this song plays the intro with this finger pattern using this articulation, because that's just the tune, right? And the student was struggling with it a little bit. They couldn't quite wrap their fingers and their mind around this standard way of playing through the tune. And they started, after 3 failed attempts, they kind of got frustrated, and they started to try and find other ways around playing the intro that way. They were like, well, that's just not working. What about this? What if I move it down a string and up a position and all this kind of stuff? And I kind of pushed back on them a little bit here, because in my view, if everyone on the planet, including myself, can play that standard bit of repertoire using that finger pattern, and this was on an instrument that's not one of my main instruments, by the way, then I think it bears, some focus and some time and letting it incubate. That was kind of my point. And we can often, I think, because of where we are with, technology and the way that we ingest content in our daily lives, if something doesn't immediately click, then we're very quick to just jump to another solution, which I think in some instances is fine, right? Like if something's not working and you're on a timeline or whatever, like try different things out, experiment, play with it. But if you know that there's a proven path to something and a proven method to something and proven benefits to a system that has been tried and tested for decades, then maybe it bears spending some time with it instead of just kind of like, I'm going to figure out my own way, And I thought that was, it just kind of sparked a thought in my mind, and I really, that kind of interaction stuck with me for 2 weeks. I think it was actually 2 weeks ago that I had this interaction with the student. And I think back to this, and I hope that nobody gets the idea that I'm like kind of like high horsing this person right now, because I have done this. I do this actively in my daily life, and I bet of the the dozen or so people that I'm looking at right here that are on this stream with me, you've done it too. And I think it relates directly to meditation, because there are so many people that I've come across in my life before I actually got into meditation who were like, meditation doesn't really work for me. My mind's too active. I need to be moving my body. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing this, that, and the other. And now that I've had maybe like 2 or so years experience with meditation, I would push back on that thought a little bit, that the kind of thought behind meditation is to be uncomfortable and to stick with it regardless, and I think that's something that we can all maybe take from that little, I don't know what you would call it, parable lesson or whatever that I had with that student. If you find yourself hitting something that's difficult and you know that there's a slow, methodical way through it, just stick with that path. I think that's going to be much more beneficial to you. There's kind of, at the meditation that my wife and I went to yesterday, they do a walking meditation halfway through. It's a 60-minute sit, right? Which is still a ridiculous challenge for me these days. Sitting still for 60 minutes and focusing entirely on the breath. Think about that. We did it for 5 minutes, and I know some of you out there probably had trouble with that a little bit, right? The people that didn't toss out their numbers. So halfway through the meditation, what we do is we get up and do a walking meditation. I think so people's, legs don't go numb and all that kind of stuff. But also it provides like a different method for practicing this art of patience and focus. And the person who led the meditation, in fact, said, I'm going to walk really slowly. What we do is we walk in a circle around the room for 3 laps, they say, like 3 cycles around the room. This room is probably, 20 by 40 or something? But like, it took 20 minutes for us to walk 3 laps around the room. And I gotta say, I was like, it was driving me crazy. But by the beginning of the meditation, the guy was like, I'm gonna move slow, and this is supposed to be challenging for you. Sometimes life doesn't move as fast as you want it to, and you have to learn how to accept that and roll with the process, the natural unfolding of events and things in life. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh dang, it's just like that lesson that I had with the person who didn't want to play the tune the way that they should be playing it. So I guess what I'm getting at is, like, I'm seeing a theme pop up in my life right now of not trusting that things are going to unfold the way that we want them to, when in fact our wants and needs are probably not what the concern should actually be. It should just be sticking with the process and, looking at everything with grace and joy and giving ourselves some space to kind of go with the natural rhythm of things. I've been yakking for a minute, so I'm going to check back into the chat box here. Oh, nice. Elliot's got some stuff he's talking about. Been struggling with a particular break, but find it helpful to close my eyes and see where I'm landing my index finger as attempt to go over chords with a particular pattern. That's amazing, man. Yeah, that's like, I think they call that like visualization, or at least some people that I've worked with before. And that's, oddly enough, that's actually one of the techniques that I tried to kind of hip this student to when we were talking about that difficult passage that they kept screwing up over and over again. And visualization, I've read, I couldn't quote the study that I was looking at, but I saw something that was saying that if you visualize something, when you close your eyes, like even if you don't have your instruments in your hands, if you're closing your eyes and visualizing performing a physical action, that like the neurons that are connected to that, like, the muscular and skeletal structures or whatever, like fire. So even when you're away from your instrument and you're thinking about something, you're visualizing something, you're actually practicing it. I think the experiment they did was, it was like some sporting activity, and they had a control group that didn't visualize, and then another group that did visualize these 2 activities away from the sporting event. And the group that visualized, performed it. It was like the percentages weren't like 100% better. It was like 15 to 20% better, something in those realms. But I mean, that's to me, that's a huge margin, right? 15 to 20%. I'll take that over if I just have to think about something inside my mind's eye or whatever. That's great. I love it. Lewis says you can tell when we are listening to the professor, the chat goes silent. Disclaimer, not a professor. I guess I technically am at Denison, but yeah, man. I'll say this a million times. I love having you people here with me because I think of this as a learn with me, not learn from me type experience. You know what I mean? I think there needs to be more space in the world for conversations surrounding this like art of mindfulness thing. And I know I'm the one with the camera and the microphone and all that kind of stuff, but I'm hoping to change that and kind of grow this community and give us more opportunities for level interaction with one another. And I'm going to talk about some of that stuff later. I've got some big things cooking in the background, by the way, people. Mindful Music Maker is not just the name of this podcast. It's actually the name of my LLC, the business that I formed when we moved back to Ohio. And I've been sitting on that name and this kind of mission and philosophy for quite some time. And this live stream is actually kind of like what I would consider the beta test for some stuff that I would love to bring to you folks here in the future. So we'll talk about that here in a sec once we get through with our kind of discussion or whatever. But yeah, anyways, learn with me, not from me. I really appreciate you folks. Johnny says it's tough, but I think we need to quiet our egos if we want to truly make the progress that we seek. I'm so with you, man. That's honestly, I think exactly what I'm getting at. Most people are intelligent. Most people can command logic. Most people can think stepwise through a problem, but I think sometimes we can get blinded by our own internal logic. You know what I mean? Like I said, if there's a proven path to something that you've seen other people go through and achieve success with, I would say most of us are on more level footing than we think. You're closer to being able to play like Tony Rice than you think. You know what I mean? Tony Rice just had the time and the drive to sit down and follow that path, that process. I'm not saying Tony Rice wasn't naturally gifted or naturally talented or any of the people that we love, but there is a path that we can follow to achieve these things that we want to achieve. But what really, I think where we get lost is like a lot of us don't have the focus and the drive to kind of slog it out, to do the mundane work that actually leads to those big gains later. And you're looking at one of those people who grapples with this. Like, this is a thing, like, I know I get on here every week and I'm like, oh, let's meditate, let's do this. But like, there are some times where I come into the live stream and I'm just like, I have nothing to show these people this week. I'm a total imposter. I'm like devoid of motivation. I can't find it. You know what I mean? And it's not just with this stream. It's sometimes I just wake up feeling like that. I'm sure we all do, right? But I think the most important thing is realizing that in those moments when you feel that way, that is one grain of sand on a beach. You know what I mean? Or one one Lego block and a deluxe Lego set or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, however you want to think about it. Like, those moments are so small, but they create something huge. And the thing that matters is to put the time in, to keep coming back. Whether it's meditation or playing the mandolin or, practicing compassion with your loved ones and your family and your friends, or even more importantly, the people that you don't like in your life, the people who challenge you. Any of these things, it can be very easy to lose motivation, and we have such a narrow view, and by we I mean I, like I'm including myself in this. We have such a narrow view of life that in those moments, if we miss one or two of those steps, one or two of those moments to kind of engage with that process, to move toward those gains we want to make, we often quit because it seems like a bigger deal than it is. It's like, well, I haven't practiced meditation in a week. I said that at the beginning of this stream, right? I could have just as easily like put a message up on YouTube tonight, like, you know what, gang, my meditation practice is off. I'm probably not going to do it anymore. I lost a week's worth of progress. This isn't worth it, you know? Yeah. But I think it just, you know, this is so cliche. Half of what I say is cliche, but I think that's because some of these things are proven. It's, you know, it's these lessons keep coming back because they're meaningful, you know. You have to just put the time in. And guess what? If it's not your best effort, you at least did it. I know that sounds terrible, right? But I keep a practice journal every day, and if I touch the guitar and do something mindfully and meaningful with the guitar or the mandolin, I write it down on my practice journal, and that's an entry for that day. I practiced that day. It might have been 10 minutes, and it might have been the worst practice of my life, but I did it. And the next day, it's so much easier for me to look at that previous entry in the practice journal and be like, you know what? I put the time in yesterday. Today, I'm going to make this one better. You know? As opposed to looking at my practice journal and seeing the last date was from 3 months ago. And then it's like, oh God, what have I even been doing? Where do I even start? You know? So yeah, that's kind of where my mind is at these days. Put the time in. And this is something that's haunting me recently too. Like, if I'm getting like really candid with you folks, I think I've mentioned it's out in the Mandolin Secrets community, at least, that I'm actually kind of we're shifting the Mandolin Secrets Guitar Club to my website, hayesgriffin.com. It's going to be the Hayes Griffin Guitar Club, or just Guitar Club. And the only reason I bring this up is because that's been a like 3-month process where I couldn't miss a step in that stepwise process and still get the product out in time. You know what I mean? So doing the slog and doing those daily steps has really been on my mind lately, because I've had to for certain things in my life. And it can be demoralizing, because some days, you know, you don't do the step the way you want to, or you miss a step and you need to like do another one instead of the one you thought you were going to do. But what I've been doing is documenting this. I've been like journaling. One of the friends that I work with, who's kind of like a process coach. She helps me like figure out my process, you know. She asks me a bunch of questions about my business that I answer, and through the process of answering these questions, kind of like reveal what the path forward for my business is, you know. So each night I've been doing a brain dump, where I just write down all the stuff that I did that day, and then all the stuff that I wanted to do and didn't accomplish. And the funny thing is, like, when you look at what you accomplished in a day, even if it was just 3 things, like, they were probably 3 pretty valuable big things, you know. And a lot of times we just, I think, put a lot of too much expectation on ourselves to get too much done within a day. At least I do. I'm checking back into the chat. I'm yakking. Francois. Oh, nice. He says it feels like that. Learn with you. I'm glad you feel that way, Francois, because, like, I don't want to give any kind of false assumptions that I'm, like, your new mindfulness meditation guru. I'm a guy who's on this path, and, like, I feel like I'm hacking my way through the jungle with a machete. You know what I mean? And if you want to follow through and widen that path with me, like, come on. Everybody grab your machetes. We're hacking our way through the path to mindfulness. Says you seem to struggle a lot, but it sounds like this group is helping you. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's good to meet with you guys. I wouldn't say that I struggle any more than the average human being. I'm just like, sometimes you're isolated, you know what I mean, with those thoughts, and you don't share them with anyone. And to me, it's like, if I can share my struggles and somebody else can relate to that, then that's good, you know. Hopefully I'm not complaining, because I'm very grateful for everything that I have and what my life is like these days. But yeah, this community is great. Well, gang, I think I'm going to play a tune and see if anybody has anything to say into the chat some more. Yeah, Lewis says talking can get a person through the things that matter and keep us focused. Absolutely, man. I kind of have to ideate, you know what I mean? I'm not one of those folks that can just keep things inside of my head and kind of like find the clear process through. Talking it out is definitely the tool that I've used for most of my life, but externalizing these things, you know, I have to put stuff out on the table in a mess and then kind of reorder it from there, you know? That's kind of how I feel. Well, gang, yeah, I think I'm gonna play a tune for you, and if you've got any thoughts or questions on any of this stuff, I would love to hear it in the chat. Like, what do you guys feel about this kind of process-oriented mentality that I'm talking about here? You know, like just put in the time, and worry less about, you know, your preconceived notions of how that time should have been spent. You know. I would love to hear from you. I know Johnny's got some good thoughts on stuff like that out there. Especially Joe, too. Well, gang. What's a good tune? Get those sharp, pointy objects out of my pocket. Jacob said another rag. Coming right up. Here's one that I haven't done in like forever and a day. This is like not the most raggy of the rags, but it's called a rag, so I'm gonna do it. The first tunes that I ever learned were from Doc Watson and Tony Rice. And this one, I believe, was like the second fiddle tune that I ever learned, Beaumont Rag. I learned Doc's version in D, which is kind of, you know, I think what a lot of like fiddle players like to play it in A, stuff like that. But I like this version in D. Let's see how fast this is. Yeah. Alright, gang. Let's check this one out. Turn that backing track down a little bit. Alright. Too much. Here we go. It's one of the first tunes I ever learned, and you know what? That one never gets old, people. I love that tune. Black Mountain Rag. Oh, what do we got in the chat now? Johnny says, I found what you said really inspiring. I wake up feeling that imposter syndrome with my own music progression that I will never get where I want to go. Yeah. It's hard when you take the narrow view, right? If you only look at where you are, this is me analyzing my own stuff. If I only look where I am right now, then it does feel overwhelming and like I'm not going anywhere. But we are going somewhere, man. It's just a lot of steps, and it takes a while, you know? I'm glad that resonates with Marion, too. Johnny says, regarding putting your time and trusting the process, it makes me think of the notion that it takes 10,000 hours to master something. Nothing comes easy. Yeah, especially nothing great. We kind of talked about that on our lesson earlier today, right? Like if you're, yeah, if it's worth doing, it's going to take a while, you know? And just to go back to the masters, you know, that do this, what you don't see on Instagram, and you know, they're all sort of like studies and memes about this kind of thing, you know, how like what you see on Instagram and social media is just like one tiny sliver of what that person's life is actually like, you know. And you know, for all of you that love the flat pickers out there that are on Instagram, Jake Eddy and, you know, Marcel and you know, all of the like famous fast shredders and all this kind of stuff, like those guys are, you know, yeah, they record themselves and put an Instagram video out pretty frequently, but they're practicing, they're putting work in, you know, when the camera's not off. And that's just like a really small kind of narrow view of what they're doing. Oh, Elliot says there might be some sound options. Yeah, I kind of see my signal cutting in and out on OBS over here. If anyone else is noticing some stuttering, let me know in the chat. Chris says, sounded great. Oh, man, Chris, good to see you out there, buddy. Are you're like back, man, right? You're not in like gallivanting around Europe or anything, right? Nice. Joe says there's been intermittent video glitches all night. Audio's fine, though. That's good to know, guys. Thanks for letting me know that. Elliot says it does help to step back and look at the big picture, i.e. progress may seem haltingly slow, but where we are today is a good bit beyond where we were some time back. Holy smokes, man. You're telling me. Chris says hashtag Franklin County. Love it, man. Lewis says, I try to keep plugging and having fun. Progress happens when I least expect it sometimes. I think that's the thing that I was getting at a little bit earlier, too. I love that you said that, Lewis. Like, if you can look at... So the first step is recognizing that anything that you want to progress toward takes a long time. It's a lot of steps to get there. And giving yourself to that process, that can be, like, liberating, especially if you just, like, learn to take joy in the small steps that are required to get there. Like this is something I've been trying to do with my daily practice. Like, no joke. Sometimes I'll wake up, like you're talking to a guy who's dedicated his life to playing, you know, wooden boxes with strings stretched across them and stuff like that. And like I make my living doing this. I'm lucky enough to like actually make my living doing this. I'll wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh God, I have to practice. And like that's to me like that's so effed up, you know, because I'm like wait, you know, and then when my like conscious mindful, you know, the side of my mind kicks in, I'm like, no, wait, like I get to practice. Like I make my living doing this, and that may make it feel like a job and put some extra pressure on the guitar, you know, but I get to do this, and I've been trying to frame everything that I do that way, not just guitar playing and stuff, but like I get to wake up every day and I get to walk down to my basement and drink an espresso and pick up this beautiful handcrafted guitar or mandolin or whatever and make awesome sounds on it. And yeah, I may only get to do it for an hour, and then I have to answer emails and keep building my website. But then, even when I'm doing those things, I'm like, oh my God, I'm making my own website. There are some people out there that want to watch my like guitar arrangements, so I get to make a website and share that info with them. You know, just like I feel like that small kind of mindset shift really makes the difference for me. You know, so I know it's can sound corny, right? Any of this mindfulness stuff or whatever can sound corny, but whenever I think of those moments, I kind of think back to like shout out to my Simpsons fans out there, like the Flanders. You know, the Flanders living next door, and they're like, oh, hey, diddly-do there, neighbor, you know, and they're always like all so bubbly and like taking stock, you know, they're like they make fun of the Flanders in the show for like having heartfelt family moments and for saying like, don't worry, gang, just put on a happy face, you know, and everyone's like, oh God, like listen to these people. But like, I honestly think that they were trying to show us, like the creators of The Simpsons, you know, were trying to show us that like actually the Flanders are the ones who are like living their best lives and right here, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, they were kind of like richer than The Simpsons and all that stuff, but like, I think it's a mindset shift, right? Like if you can be thankful for what you have in your life and kind of practice positivity and appreciation and stuff like that, then you're gonna live your best life, you know? So yeah, be more like the Flanders. Maybe not as, you know, verbally annoying as Ned or whatever, but... All right, gang, it's 7-Eleven. I think I'm going to go spend some time with my wife. I want to go do that. But this has been great. I'm so glad to get back into the swing. Thanks for letting me yak at you guys for a little while, and thanks for the great conversation in the chat. Francois, really appreciate you coming back tonight, my friend. It was great to hear some of your comments and interact with the rest of the group. Like, this is a great group of people, and I really appreciate all of you. Yeah. Marion, so great to see you out there. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. I love it. Johnny says, best stream yet. Yeah, man. Anyone that's one more than the last one is the best stream yet, you know? I'm standing upright, breathing in and out. I love it. Lewis, great to see you. Elliot, I appreciate you, my friend. Loco Joe, good to see you out there too, buddy. And actually, Joe, like, I'm gonna shoot you a message about this, but I wanna have a like video chat with you sometime, dude. Especially like, I think I was just reminded that you're like a software developer and all that kind of stuff. But I would love to hear more about that Strum Machine thing, man. If you want to have a chat sometime, give me a shout. Chris, great to see you out there. Thanks for hopping in. Who else did I miss? Hopefully no one else. I appreciate all of you. All right, gang. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you all. I'll be back here next week. I'm headed to Montreal this Thursday to see my sister-in-law and visit her for her birthday. But we'll be back in time for another stream next week. So mark it in your calendars. We'll see you then, okay? Take it easy, gang.